Yep. Scares us every day.
That's all right. Happens.
So let's jump in.
Yeah.
Jumping.
We talked about, a little bit about your background,
Yep.
Grumman, and then you were doing this on the side. So what made that switch happen? Where did you, first of all, why did you even start this?
Well, I don't know. I really, so my mom always like made sun tea and stuff like that growing up. And I've always been like had an affinity towards iced tea, like just enjoyed it. She made a raspberry tea back in the day, which my raspberry tea tastes very similar to. So it like always reminds me of that. But I was big in the beer fest. So I graduated college in like 2004. I came home, I started drinking at Blue Point in 2004. And it was like when Blue Point Brewery was like this little tiny tasting room, and you go for a tour. You got a free beer when you went on a tour, and that like all that kind of stuff. So I hung out there, and then I became friendly with like the staff at Blue Point. And then there was the one time I was down there, they were like, "Hey, we have this Cask Fest happening." It was like in the middle of February, I think, freezing cold. They're like, "Hey, do you want to like volunteer?" And I was like, "Yeah, totally cool. I'd love to. Do you mind if I bring some friends to volunteer? Like, what's the deal?" "Oh, well, help set up, and then kind of pour some beers, and then like the rest of the time we hang out and have a good time."
Right.
All right, cool. So I did that. My friends came down. It was like an absurd, one of the funnest festival events I've ever experienced. So we had a lot of good times. But then like it started becoming like my social circle. So, the North Fork Beer Festival, the stuff at the Coliseum is run by this company called Starfish Junction. Friends of mine, or became friends of mine. And I started like working every event for them. I volunteered, didn't get paid, but it got me in to these events. So I helped set up, but then it started being like I would travel with them. We went down to Philly, we went up to Boston, like they had other beer festivals. So I was at the North Fork Beer Festival in 2013, like drinking beer, but it was like 95 degrees. There's nothing non-alcoholic. And I was like, tea is brewed, beer is brewed. Why isn't there like a craft brewed iced tea? And it was like a legitimate light bulb moment. So I thought that was, and it was like, okay, well, how do I figure out how to do that now? So then I went to Tivana, back 2 steps back. I went to Bed Bath & Beyond and ran into some people that worked for Starfish Junction, like in their creative.
Okay.
And they're like, "What are you doing here?" And I was like, I got everything tea related from Bed Bath & Beyond. Tea infusers, timers, all this stuff. And I'm all like, I think I'm starting a tea company. And I'm like walking out with my 20% off coupon.
Right.
And I like walk out of there, and they're like, "That's really weird." It was like, so it was serendipitous that it like,
Right.
that it was those people and they saw us. And then I went to Tivana and in the mall, right? And it was like, "Oh, I need like, I don't know, give me like a couple ounces of tea to try this." It was like $250. I was like, what the hell is this? Like tea, shouldn't be this much. So I like played with those, and then I found a tea importer through the Starfish Junction people. And she was super wonderful. She's in Manhasset. So my tea importer, where we get all of our tea from, and the fruit flavors that we use in our teas, is out of there. And it just was like well, nobody's doing what you want to do, like the craft brewed tea in the craft brewed world. Nobody was really doing it. Honest Tea was the only guys out there. I don't think at that point they were owned by Coca-Cola yet, but either way. So then I started tinkering. Like I would get old bottles from Snapple bottles or whatever, and I'd put the caps back. I'd make tea, I'd put them in, and I'd go sample them around, give them to people. And then at one of the beer festivals in Philly, I had made a couple growlers of stuff. One of them being the plum, which was like my personal favorite. I love plums. And I went down there, and they were like, so I was, after the event, we're all hanging out in this like hotel room, and with like a conference table, and we're all like eating pizza and wings and drinking. And I was like, "Hey guys, I got this thing. You guys want to try it?" And they're like, "Yeah, man, we'd love to. So I pour out a bunch of things, and I was like, I'm getting choked up. It's like the first time I let anybody really like try it, and I'm gonna get this like feedback and criticism. And I'm crying. I'm like, "Yeah, guys, just be honest. Just like, don't hurt my feelings."
Yeah.
And I still keep in touch with all of these cats. And I saw one of them the other day. He's like, "You remember when you were crying about your tea?" Anyway, so they tried it. They gave me all this great feedback, and then it was like, well, let me find a bottle supplier. So I found a guy near me, and then I printed out labels on my printer at home.
Yep.
And then, all right, well, then we went to the incubator. We were able to make it, and then we could sell it like legally, right? We got all of our licensing and stuff to do that. I was still a Grumman the whole time. And then it was like, all right, let's try to get our first dozen stores. I was The breweries were really big for me. Mustache Brewery was one of our first accounts. Cornucopia was our second account. You know, these were people that were like friendly with me and knew what I was trying to do. And now we're in like, I don't know, 500 and something stores.
Amazing.
Wow.
You know, took a couple years.
Yeah.
Like, we're in like 9 years, but again, I wasn't doing it full time. It was a night and weekend project for the first 5 years.
Right.
Yeah. So when did it make that transition to, when did you jump in and how did you make that?
So I guess it was the end of somewhere in 2018. It was like I was just exhausted. I was burning the candle both ends. So me and my dad, my dad's been involved like from the beginning as like my unhired help. You know, so he was always really supportive. And so he would come out to the incubator. We would brew, I don't know, 30 or 40 or 50 cases of tea at a time. Okay. I'd stack them up in my, like by my entry by my front door. Mm-hmm. I don't have a foyer, but I call it my foyer. And I'd have like, I don't know, 50 or 60 or 100 cases at a time. I had 3 flavors originally. And then so how we got there. I just couldn't do both. And like Grumman they moved a bunch of jobs to Florida. I moved to a new program. The people weren't awesome. It was like tough. I felt like I was just wasting time. They literally didn't have work for me to do. I'd go around and ask people, and they'd be like, my boss came up one time. He's like, Kyle, you can't go around asking for work. And I was like, well, what am I going to do? They're like, well, just sit at your desk.
Yeah.
Well, that's not how I work. Like, I need to be constantly working. So then it was like, all right, well, let me see if I can really do this. And I figured out some numbers and said goodbye.
Goodbye, right?
Goodbye.
I think about your inception moment while you were at that festival, right? And it's like nobody wants to drink water.
Right.
Right. And nobody wants to drink beer. And all of a sudden you're like, there's no other alternative right now. And you don't want soda, right? If you're going to have soda, you might as well.
Right.
You know.
Well, you want, sometimes you need a break from those big AVB beers, right? Like I'll drink a triple IPA Imperial, you know, every once in a while. But I can't drink them all day. Yeah. And then if you have them, I like a little break in between, like something to hydrate or something to, you know, just bring your taste buds back. And that's why I kind of think that we do so well with the breweries. Like we're in Greenport. I don't know. They sell 30 cases of tea a week sometimes, like in the season, right? We're a great non-alcoholic option in that craft world. We're good for the designated driver. We're good for the pregnant wife, girlfriend, kids that are out there having fun.
I've seen you at like vineyards and stuff too.
We're in a dozen vineyards on the East End, and those are really the people that understand what we're doing. You know, we're not a Walmart 10 for 10 brand, right? Like we don't want to be. We're not trying to be the cheapest. We're a premium craft brewed iced tea.
No, I love that idea because I think about sometimes when I'm the designated driver, which I'm not always, but mostly ever. But I would think like I don't want to be the guy drinking water. I want to look like I'm kind of enjoying a beverage, and I don't want it to be soda because I'm not really into soda. I don't like that sugary, that whole thing, that whole connotation kind of around soda nowadays.
Sure.
So tea seems like the perfect balance to have at a brewery, and it's pretty amazing that inception. The other idea, the Starfish Junction, you talked about it a bit. I'm all about how did you build the journey and like how did you meet suppliers and go through that Starfish Junction. Like it's not easy what you do. You know, people think it's just, I just met this person, does this. I want to know kind of that kind of journey, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
What is Starfish Junction?
So Starfish Junction is the best way I can describe them is a beer promotion event company. So an event promoter, specializing in craft beer. I don't know. You guys have been to craft beer festivals, right?
Yeah.
They were very different in 2005, 6, 7, not, you know, until recently. Now I think that what craft beer is, the renaissance that craft beers had is so different, right? There's like 65 different breweries here on Long Island. At one point, it was Blue Point Brewery and James Bay Brewery that no longer exists, right? And that was in Port Jeff. So there wasn't all of those beers. So like breweries, when they would release something new or have an innovation or whatever, they waited for these events because people were going there because they wanted to try new stuff. It wasn't, hey, how drunk can I get on 4-ounce pours? It was, hey, what's different? What's new? What have I not had? So anyway, so I think there was a lot more curiosity and like genuineness. And I use that so loosely because I think a lot of breweries are very genuine yet. But I just think it was like it didn't exist the way that it does now.
there's like a really fully formed community
Totally.
here now.
And it's super supportive, and I'm part of it. And like, you pick a brewery on the island, I got the owner's number on my phone, right? Like I'm part of that world. But how that happened was going to these beer festivals, right? I was just a guy in a yellow shirt that said crew on the back, and I would be like, hey man, do you need me to help you unload your truck? Oh, your jockey box isn't working. This is what's wrong. Like, so I became very friendly, and the Starfish Junction festivals became my social circle.
Got it.
Right. So I was like hanging out with people, and it didn't take a year or two. I started the first the first Cask Fest, I think, that I was part of, I think was in 2006, right? And then I didn't start Subtle Tea until 2013. So there was like 7 or 8 years of like, hey, weekends were beer festivals that Starfish Junction was doing. And I was very fortunate because they very much embraced me, and I said, hey, I got a couple friends that want to come. Oh yeah, bring them down. And there were 3 shifts that they had. First shift helped set up. Second shift was during the event, like pour and do that kind of stuff. And third shift was break down and clean up. Nobody wanted to do that one. The first shift, what the benefit was, and every one of them got you a ticket to a free show, but the first shift got you a ticket to that show, right? So you keep your shirt on that says crew. You already helped set up. You're done working. You can
walk to the front of the line.
Walk to the front. You stayed behind the tables, and you just went from tap to tap to tap. So I got to try all these beers. And that's when the brewers.
And you got close with all the people.
That's when the brewers used to go to the events. Now, they send their marketing or tasting room people or whatever. So it was just that it was true friendships that allowed me to expand or allowed me to dream this up and then execute on it.
So what are some other relationships that you've built that have had similar effect? Maybe they didn't start as friendships, but like your distribution, you're in Stop and Shops, you're in like Whole Foods. How are you making those types of relationships?
So some of those are a lot harder than they should be, I think. Distributors are big gatekeepers. And if you could just get your product to the people that get to make the decision, when you have a quality product, they're going to say yes, right? And that's what I like. So I have a good product, so I lean on that a lot. So figuring out the relationships, it's tough. You have to pick the ones that are going to be meaningful, right? So, but I also like look into what's available. New York State does this Taste New York program, right? They did these rest stops. That's a huge thing for us. They were our first order over 25 cases, right? And I'll tell you a little story. So they're opening up the expressway, that rest stop, the Long Island Taste New York. It's a regional thing. And I get a phone call. Hey, I'm this Taste New York rep. We're opening up the new spot in 2016, I think it was. They're like, we'd like to, we're going to put beverages in there. We think your local iced tea would be really great in it. I agreed. I was like, yeah, totally. This is great. At the time, we had 5 flavors. And he's like, all right, cool. We're going to do like 15 cases. I was like, oh, cool. 3 cases of each of 5. Yeah, I got that in stock. No worries. I got it. 15. He goes, no. 15 of each flavor. It was a 75 case order. The most I ever got. Yeah. I literally was like, holy yes, it's working. We're on.
What year is this?
2016. So I like, yo, Dad, I just got a 75 case order. We got to brew tomorrow. So like we go out to the incubator, we brew our stuff. So at the incubator, we would just put everything in the bottles, and then I'd bring everything back to my house. I call them pizza and beer. I call them label parties. It's amazing what you can accomplish with pizza and beer. So my buddies would come over. They were generally Thursday night. We would just drink a ton of beer, and I would have 2,800 bottles. That was like our like batch size and how we kind of worked out. I think me and my dad at the time were brewing 2 nights a week. So it was Tuesday, Wednesday brew, and then label Thursday with my boys. And then I'd go to work like all those times. We'd get back from the incubator at like 1 o'clock in the morning. Then me and Dad would drink a Heineken and watch Trailer Park Boys. Yeah. Like a half hour cool down, and then he'd go home. Anyway, so it was like, it was really funny. I just lost my train of thought. Where are we going? Pizza and beer, label parties, incubator. I don't know. That's it.
It was the Taste Long Island.
Oh, Taste New York, right? Yeah. So Taste New York, right? So I was like, Dad, we got to make this stuff. So we like hustled. We made what we had to make. and we got it there, and I was like so pumped that they took this huge order. Now I'm upset if people aren't buying pallets. You know, it's like funny. It's like it's such a dichotomy. It's so different.
Yeah.
I mean, I get excited for 8-case orders. Oh man, I got 8 cases today. Whatever. Huh? You only want 8 cases? Jeez, come on.
Right.
So what's a case? 12?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that was like 100
Oh, it was
100 teas.
which
8-case order. It was like
yeah
100 of
yeah
these.
yeah yeah. But
Yeah.
that was but in the beginning that was huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, like, and it was funny because, like, so relationships again, you're talking about, like, so my bottle supplier, he's this guy, his name is Juicer Joe. He sells bottles for, like, the juice world, and he's like, oh, no, I can get you, he showed me samples, and he was like, oh, I can get you this, I can get you that. And I started going to his place in Bohemia, and I'd pick up 2 sleeves. A sleeve was 160. And I'm like, hey, man, can I get 2? He's like, yeah, okay. Hey, can I get 4? Yeah, okay. Hey, I need 6 this week. He goes, oh, good order.
Yeah.
Cool. I order 6 pallets a week now.
Wow.
And he's a funny supporter. He's like, Kyle, I know that you're doing, like, this is going to be big. And he tells me stories of other people he's sold bottles to that have made it big. And he goes, you're going to do it. You're going to do it. And I like the positiveness from, like, your suppliers when they believe in you.
Right.
It's kind of a good thing.
Well, like you said, you have a good product. You have good relationships with these people. Like, they want to see you succeed. That's
Absolutely.
part of it.
Yeah, totally.
And if they're able to help you on that journey, like, that's invaluable.
Yeah, it's that, and then who else helps are the people that the way I say it is like so there's stores. You have 3 shops within in the salt water
Universe.
clothing universe, right? Well, like I got into Bango bowls. They're a acai bowl place, whatever. Well, they had 1 store. We got in there. It was working. We figured out our keg situation there. We said some growing pains, but they stuck with us. Then they had 2 stores. We went with them. Then they had 3 stores. We went with them. Now they got like 12 stores.
Yeah, they got a bunch.
They got a whole bunch of things that they're got in the works now that they're trying to make happen, and we're their iced tea.
Yeah.
And we're going to be part of it. So with their success comes our success, and you know, I'm grateful to those guys to keep us around. But again, our branding, our product goes really well with what they're selling. It's that better for you, less sugar, quality craft iced tea.
Yeah, I think what's really important, what you said, the manufacturer like perspective of whoever's either helping you with the bottles or whatever, when they start to see confidence in you and they start to give you some terms or whatever it might be, you're going, we might actually have something good here, you know? And you're like, then internally you're like, okay, so my supplier believes in me, they're giving me more time to pay, or they know I'm going to pay. They're just right away, they're like, all right, we'll hop on and get it done for you. I think that just shows you where you are in your brand, and you're just going, oh crap, I think I have a chance to really actually believe in, like, I believe in this goal. And now people from the outside are believing in that too. And that's the part where you get goosebumps. And when you were talking, I was like, oh my God, he's like, it's just so exciting for you.
Thank you.
And for your family and your dad to be a part of it, to think of that journey from, you know, the incubator, brewing the teas, the pizza parties. It's just like, to me, that's like the coolest story.
Thanks.
And like, that's what makes me excited about entrepreneurship. I've been doing this with my dad too. Like, you just kind of, you think about, oh crap, he was sewing hats in the middle of a batting range, right? And then now we're buying, you know, 7 like
containers
like,
worth.
Yeah, you're just like
getting
what?
a 75-case shipment.
Yeah,
totally.
You're like, what the hell, you know? So you kind of go through this whole process. You're like, holy crap, we went from doing that. It's just amazing to see your progression. So where are you now today from that incubator stage? Now, you know, the ingredients, the water, whatever goes into this. How does that grow and change?
So it's crazy, right? So I'm scrappy, right? Like my MO is I you know, I watch reels or whatever, and there's this voiceover. It's like I could do it myself, Gene, or whatever, right? Like there's some like soundbite that goes with it, but like there's nothing I look at and say I can't do that, like unless it comes to like writing and like some art stuff or whatever. I can't do that.
Right.
But I can build anything. I can design anything. I think I can figure out almost anything. So in that progression, so like the label parties, right? That was for a lot of years.
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, I can't brew more tea because I couldn't have another label party. There wasn't another Thursday. My boys were like, Kyle, there's only so many Thursdays. Like, we can't give out, we can't do it anymore. Or we can't give more. And it was every week. Every week. Thursday night, Kyle's house, it would be between 4 and 7 people. A lot of pizza. But like, and it took hours. Like the labels of, all right, so that's the growth, right?
Right.
So I was printing out the labels. It was a front and back label. I printed them out on this printer that I had purchased used online, this big, huge LaserJet. But I was able to print, 2,800 times it would be 4,800 divided by, it was like 450 pages or 480 pages of labels that I had to print because they were 10 on a thing. They were already die cut that I had to print every week that we were bottling. And then we put them on by hand, and then the front label and the back label. So it really wasn't, that was like the long pole in the tent. Like we couldn't get past the.
That was like your bottleneck of everything.
Yes.
There's some crooked
that
labels
was the thing
out
that
there.
took.
Oh, dude, there's crooked labels now.
And you guys have this like high tech.
handcrafted.
That's right.
Handcrafted.
That has value though.
I think
does.
so. It's
I
part of
think
the
so.
brand. Handcrafted, man. Like,
I look at it, if this label's crooked, I'd be like, and it says, hey, I'm like, this, I believe this.
Yeah.
Like, this is,
I-
it's
Handcrafted
believable.
all along.
If it was
Yeah.
perfect, that wouldn't be exciting.
so that's another funny thing. All right, so remind me when I get to the label. It's perfect. All right, so I was like, there's no more pizza nights that we can, or the guys were like, no, there's no more pizza nights. So I was like, well, what's the real next thing here?
Yeah.
Well, I got to figure out how to label these bottles faster. So online, I find this used labeler in Canada for a lot of money. I had to borrow money from my grandmother to pay for it, to buy it. But also in that, well, where am I going to put this labeler? Well, this labeler is the size of a pool table. It's not going to my living room. So I would have. But so what I did is I bought 2 shipping containers. I put them in my backyard. I put it in the shipping container. I installed it. So now that shipping container needs 50 amps worth of power. I need a compressor. I need all this stuff. Well, then I go rent a backhoe and I trench this stuff out there. And and now I have like this whole infrastructure in my backyard. So that's where Subtlety was like kind of really born, where we got to some scale, is like, all right, well, we could make as much as we can make at the incubator, but now we can label it easily. And we don't need 7 people to do it. It would take 2 people to do it, and we would spend hours just taking bottles out of the crates from the incubator, putting them on the labeler and running them through. So that was like an evolution. But in order to do that, I needed to commit to buying. I had to design the labels. I then had to buy, I don't know, 30 or 45,000 of them to make it cost effective. I wasn't ready to buy, so it was it was like a scale thing. So I had this, like I said, I borrowed money from my grandmother. I saved up a bunch. I was able to like jump in. Okay, we're expanding. It's a growth thing. So I met with this label printer on Long Island, and I was like, all right, hey guys, here's my design. I don't care if they're perfect. It's handcrafted. The little rubber stamp is like a big thing for us. They're like, no. Our printers print them perfect every time. I was like, yeah, but I'm okay if they're like a little whatever. And they're like, well, on the die, we could, have every third one be like this. So on your roll, you'll have imperfections added to the labels. I was like, that doesn't seem right
That's
either.
not real. Yeah. That's not
So it
real.
was like,
Yeah.
you're talking about perfect, right?
Yeah.
Those don't. There was no
those are
error.
long gone.
There was no errors put in. But it was like funny how they're like, oh, we could skew it so like this one will be this way and that one will be that way. And I was like, okay. So like that perfectness, that handcrafted, was always the handcrafted was always more important than the perfect to me.
Yeah.
So we put the labeler in my backyard and shipping containers. Well, then we were at the incubator for another couple years. I had left Grumman at that point, and then I was like, I was trying to move into the incubator, get my equipment out there and storage and stuff. And the incubator, as great as it is, has its struggles too. So we were never able to like make a plan that made sense for us to be able to like move in there and work out of. So then I started looking for space. And I found a 3,000 square foot space in Ronkonkoma. And I knew if I was going to move there, I was going to need a bigger kettle because my problem was making hot water. I couldn't make hot water fast enough now. Right. I could label, I couldn't make hot water. Well, I labeled like that kettle wouldn't go in my house or the shipping container, so I needed the space. We found the space. I was able to another loan, right, from an SBA loan, because I'm buying now a $55,000 kettle. Like I'm really good at spending money. Right. So we got this custom kettle built. It took, I don't know, like 10 months to get made. We built out the space at the brewery. we call it the brewery. We built it out. We had to do a whole bunch of infrastructure stuff, bring it all up to what we needed. So we have like hot liquor ability or hot water. So we have the ability to make that. And then the kettle came, and we're like, this is great. And at that time, we were filling everything by hand. Right, still, and we're putting every cap on by hand, and then we bring it over to the labeler and run them through the labeler by hand. We were still touching the bottles like 11 times before it went out. We had to sanitize them before. We'd let them dry overnight. We'd then fill them. We'd cap them. We'd label. It was just absurd how much we touched it. So we were doing that for 2 years.
So what year are we in right now?
The pandemic was COVID 2021, right?
Yeah.
We'd moved into 2020. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We moved into the brewery Ronkonkoma in the beginning of 19. We had the first year. All right, cool. It's going. It's good. And we were like every year we were double growth, 100% every year, right? And it was like bigger and bigger and bigger. And then COVID happened. And we like when you plan all of this growth, you're like, you need it, right? So you need the growth, you need the expansion, and then it was like the world turned off. I literally my wife packed my lunch every day. I went to work and just like looked at the computer. Like I called all my customers. They're like, Kyle, we're closed. We're not doing anything. Anyway, so we got through that. 2020, we had zero growth from 19 to 20, but maybe it was like $2,000 more, and people were like, at least you hate on. Hey, at least you hung on. I was like, yeah, cool. But at that time, we knew it when we got into the incubator or into the Ronkonkoma brewery spot. We knew that we were gonna need we couldn't keep doing it by hand. Like that was the long pole in the tent. So in 2021, the very beginning, we got through COVID or 2020. In the very beginning of 2021, we were like, all right, let's figure out bottling equipment. We found a company in Riverhead called Capsol. They're a start to finish bottle filling manufacturer. And it's great because they're right down the road. We were able to go. They understood what we were trying to accomplish. And if there were any problems, they were close. So it made a lot of sense for them to be there or for us to pick them. So we ordered that in 2021, the very beginning of it. We got it at the end of 2021. So that was like 2 full years that we were like, or a full year we were like waiting for it. Like wrote a big check in the beginning to get the deposit going. Yeah. All right. And then it was like 11 months for construction. But it was custom. Hey, here's our tiny little space. We got 2 windows that we got to go through.
Yeah, so just to clarify, it's like this giant machine. I've been there and seen it.
Yep.
It's this giant machine that takes up 2 rooms pretty much, and every single part of the bottling process
is now
handled through this machine.
Yeah, so you take bottles of those sleeves that I was buying 3 or 4 at a time. Now I'm buying pallets. You take them, you dump them in this big hopper. It dumps them into this rotary table. It lines them up. It doesn't matter if it's neck first or butt first. It orients them facing down. It sanitizes them. It stands them back up. It brings them to the filler. The filler's got 12 heads. It comes down, pop, 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 pop. Takes 7.6 seconds to fill up 12 bottles. It then comes out of there, makes a left-hand turn, goes through a capper. As it gets capped, we dose nitrogen in it to get all the oxygen out of it. The cap goes on. It comes out of there. It gets rinsed and washed and dried, and then it goes through our labeler, and then it goes to another big table that like spins at an accumulation table, and then that's where you have to have somebody stand, and then somebody takes them and puts them on this like a giant Quiznos oven, right?
Yeah.
But it pushes them through a wall of plastic, seals it, and then it goes through there. And now we have the cases. And
then eventually the bottle that I'm holding, right?
Yeah, well,
there's
12
those
cases
them in.
back there.
Yeah.
Well, now you got 12 of them.
Wow.
But now it's like, I call it my Lamborghini, right? It was either a Lamborghini or a bottling line. I picked the bottling line.
Probably a good choice.
Yeah, so I can get multiple Lamborghinis.
Yeah, now you get Lamborghinis.
Right? So, but that piece of equipment that cost so much money and took so long to get, and the infrastructure that had to go in, and power requirements, and water or air requirements, and water, all this stuff to make it go. What took us like 3.5 to 4 days to do, we now do in a day, right? And now we're doing that 2-3 days a week. So like our capacity went from, I don't know, like 1,000 cases a week that we were hustling to make, to now we do that in a day.
Incredible.
You know, right? So it's kind of a cool. It's very cool. So now we have a lot of capacity.
Yeah.
And now our goal is now we have to try to sell it. Now that's where our, I don't want to call it our struggle, but that's like our that's our point now.
That's perfect, because that was going to be my next question. Is this entire story is awesome. It's great.
It's great.
Great product, and it's a great story because along the way you were just like, here's the next problem, let's solve for it. Here's the next problem, let's solve for it. So what is that? What's that problem now? Like, as we get to the end of wrapping this whole thing up, what's the future? Like, how can someone who's listening help you? What are the connections that you need, or the things that
you own
need?
A deli or a pizza place or a sandwich shop or whatever, and you got a quality product, give us a call and you'll have a quality iced tea, right? So really now, you know, I always talked about it as like the chicken and the egg, right? Like I made a little bit, but I could sell it. Yeah. But then now you could sell it, but you can't make it. Now I can make it, but I got to sell it. Like, right. So like those were always been the battle of subtlety, right? Is I need to be able to make more, but it costs more, all this stuff. So really now we have the production, I'll call it on lock. We're able to make it. We make a consistent product every time. I feel like the bottling line has increased the quality of our product. The nitrogen, the sanitization, everything is just better. Like
consistency was key, right? I mean,
I always like to say with the handcrafted,
I know,
right, the craft brewed, right? You know, and there's variations, like, right? You know, I've been doing it 10 years. Our tea that we get that is, you know, like a vintage or a year of wine growing, right? Like a vintage of grapes, you know, tastes different. A year of hops, oh, we got more rain or less rain, or it's cloudy or whatever. There's variations, but as long as it's like a real, like, I don't know, it's still the quality.
You don't want a customer who's been buying the product for years to pick it up and be like, oh, this one's way too sweet.
No,
like,
no, that it would not be.
Yeah.
But there are, like, you know, all right, maybe it's maybe a little more raspberry because we're using dried raspberries, and maybe this vintage is a little stronger or a little sweeter or whatever. So, but it's never over the top, right?
And that's the same with everything, with hops, with breweries, and all these different things. Just
you got to taste
the
it.
crop.
Yeah, you got to taste. We taste every batch.
Right.
I burn my lips all the time. Right, and then once we put it in the bottles, then we do our testing. We monitor pH and a whole bunch of other things, and then we have a safe product that's ready to go out to everyone.
So it's distribution right now.
The sales and distribution, right? So distribution is its own animal, like, and then sales is another animal. Like, you know, you talk to these distributors, and they say, "All right, yeah, well, you're going to give me your like 25 best stores." I'm like, "Yeah, but those 25 stores, I go drop off to them, and that's a lot of cash flow to us. I can't give that up, and now and then I'm not going to make the money. Who are your 25 best customers? And I'll give you free product to get into those places." Whatever, there's always, everybody wants a deal all the time, and it's like challenging because, you know, you look at these distributors aren't going to lose money, and a lot of them don't want to. They're not in the. I guess they're not in the business to start a brand or build a brand, but we're working with a couple that understand that if you help these guys. And now you're selling a bunch of product, we're selling more product. It's like a symbiotic relationship, right? So we've got a couple different distributors that we started working with in the last year that are like game changers for us, like big or like, oh, hey Kyle, we need like 6 pallets. Yeah, no problem, man, I got you. Right, and like those are the orders that I get excited about. Like, 6 pallets, done, in, whatever. Okay, cool. But I still love the, you know, hey, 4 cases, 8 cases, you know, like that was our bread and butter. Like the small independent mom and pops are great. We spent a lot of time developing some routes over the last 2 years, where now we got these businesses on a like a cadence, like a repetition. Yeah. Right. All right. Show up every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, depending. We go there, we say hello. We know they're going to take 5 cases. We pack out the truck before. And that was a big problem too, was you'd call up places and you thought you could just make a phone call and they'd give you honest feedback. Oh, hey, how's the stock? Oh, it's fine. Oh, it's fine. And you're like, wait, how is it fine like 6 weeks in a row? Like, let me go stop in. You'd stop in and there would be 3 bottles of one flavor. And you're like, well, how long have the other 4 flavors not been in the fridge, right? So they're selling through. So we had best sellers. So like, oh no, maybe you should take 2 cases of those. Then you stop in and then when you go there and you're like, yo, you guys are out. Oh yeah, put whatever in. Put it in because it's selling. They don't care. Put it in. So that was a huge thing. A lot of the smaller guys don't want to do inventory. So you have to go in and say, all right, you need 2 of these, 1 of this. All right, see you next week or in 2 weeks. And so the development of those routes has like really solidified. You know, we make a couple extra $1,000 a week from just stopping in places.
Yeah.
Which is important.
Well, that also helps you too. It's like the feedback that you get from these delis that are selling through on certain products.
Yeah.
It's like it helps you know that if you gave this to somebody else to do those routes, you wouldn't know that.
Well, that's
right.
That's a big thing too. Distributors don't want to give you any info.
Right.
They're like, oh yeah, we got 200. We got 10,000 customers. Okay, cool. Who are they? We're not going to tell you.
Right.
Well, but you just bought 2 pallets of my product. Where did you drop them off? I want to just put them on my map. I'm not going to try to steal your customer. Yeah. Oh no, we're not going to tell you where they are. Oh, cool. Thanks, guys. You know, like wouldn't it make sense for my website to have, hey, where can I buy locally? And now all of a sudden it's in an extra.
You have that right now too.
Well, we do, but
it's only
those
the ones that you know of.
Correct. Which is crazy.
There's probably other places that your product is that you have no clue.
And I get phone calls about it, and I'll like there's this one place in not a phone call, email. Mm-hmm. This place up in Rhode Island. They're like, oh, we've been carrying your tea for a couple months. I was like, how the hell did it get there? And they're like, oh, we got it through this distributor. Do you have any signage that we could hang up in the store? Yeah, absolutely. Mail it on up. You know, like whatever you guys need to sell more product. But if we knew where all of them were, we could just send this stuff out. Like, and I don't know, there's challenges.
Yes.
Yeah.
Silly challenges.
business,
as you
right?
grow, it's the next level of challenges, and it seems like
Yeah.
you've been just figuring that out as you go along.
A little bit at a time. You know, like you got to really, I don't know, I don't like to be idle. I like the creation. I like that stuff. I'm not great at the sales game. I'm bad at emails every once in a while. Not everyone, all the time. But like there's things that I like to do, like the creation of the space, like setting up the bottle, designing, building, setting up the bottling line. That's like my jam. Like I love that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. Like
You're an engineer.
Yeah, and now and now we're making the product, and I'm back there. I'm helping when we make stuff. I got 2 dudes working, or on brew days, I got 2 guys there and me. My dad used to come in every day. He's since decided to retire and move upstate. So I give him only recently. They just sold their house like less than a week ago.
Oh, good for him.
Or they just closed less than a week ago. So yeah, he cashed out and he's like, oh, I'm gonna start a wood saw business. I was like, all right, cool, Dad. So he's got like a wood mill on order. He's like a funny old man.
That's great.
But yeah, so that's what's next.
So what are the best sellers? And then how can people find you and how can they get the product in their hands?
So our best seller is Sweetless, our unsweet black tea.
Interesting.
Which it kind of threw me for a loop too. It was not our first flavor. It was not even our 4th, 5th flavor. It was like later in the game. But I don't think that nobody's making a really. First off, you don't need sugar to make tea taste good, right? And so it's a 0 calorie. It's 2 ingredients: water and tea. Mm-hmm. It's a black Assam tea from the Assam region of India. It's really very tasty. It's the base of all of our teas. So like our Timonade, that's the black tea in there. Not our lemonade. There's no tea in that.
I do. There you go.
The Sweetless is our biggest seller. I think it's because there's a lot of people looking for no sugar, the better for you. But none of our teas are overly sugar. Like if you look at our Timonade, which is one of our highest sugar content ones, it's about 1/3 of the industry standard, right? Like our bottle is, I'm forgetting now, like 30 grams of sugar.
It's 27.
27.
Yeah, it's even less than that.
Right. So, but if you go look at it at Snap or Arizona or any of them, there's 60 grams, 65 grams of sugar.
16
yes,
ounces, not
versus
12. So the full bottle is 27 grams. If you had 16 ounces of soda, you're looking at 70 grams of sugar.
Crazy.
Probably
100. Like get a Coca-Cola. Go look at that.
Yeah,
I don't have any. I should have grabbed some on the way.
Well, they're the devil anyway. But like that. But that's the crazy part. So like it's the better. Oh, so Sweetless is just a good tea. Mm-hmm. Like it tastes like what people want to taste. Like America, like tea isn't known. Like tea is the most consumed beverage throughout the world, other than water. You know, a lot of people here drink coffee, and that's cool. I like coffee. I like a good latte, you know. But I love iced tea.
So are these caffeinated? There's caffeine in there?
Yeah, so
just a little bit.
So there's nothing added. Tea has caffeine in it.
Mm-hmm.
It's slightly different than coffee caffeine. You're not going to get the crash that you would in coffee. You know, so it's yes, there's caffeine in it. We don't add any extra caffeine.
Cool.
But our lemonades don't have any.
I think that's the funny thing about iced tea. Sometimes people are like, does it have caffeine in it, you know?
Like, yeah.
Versus a hot tea, right? Like it has this like different,
Yeah,
It does have a different feeling.
Well,
you know what I mean?
I think a lot of this stuff too, like the teas out there, are just brown food coloring and high fructose corn syrup. So it's and some like flavor.
Yeah, it's like 3% tea.
There's probably no tea in it.
Yeah.
To be honest. Right, but ours, we're steeping it. Like that we put in hundreds of pounds of tea into our kettle, and we pull it out, and as soon as it touches the water, it's like this beautiful color comes out of it. And it's like the craft brew world. Like you look at it and you're like, oh, that's gonna taste good.
Yeah, right.
So I really enjoy that kind of stuff, or the making of it. But it's just like the whole belief is quality in is quality out kind of a thing. So
Yeah, I think you're embodying that. You know,
thank you.
everything that you're doing is
Trying.
quality.
yeah. So that's our best.
I'm a
seller.
believer.
Yeah. Where can people find it? Like, where can people find you guys and get in touch?
So we're in tons of stores. So Whole Foods, Cornucopia and Sayville has been like a huge supporter of us from the beginning. Bango Bowls. We're in Stop and Shops. We're doing some stuff with the North Shore Farms. So those are like some bigger things. But we're in a ton of big old mom and pop Chubb's Meats. So they have multiple multiple butcher shops. Then you got a sandwich shop that we crush it in. The breweries, the wineries, a lot of stuff out there. But online is like really good for us. We do free shipping. So if you want
direct on your website, right?
direct from our website, free shipping. If you want to save $6, come pick it up at our spot in Ronkonkoma. We'll give you a tour, that kind of a thing. But you know, like I wish I could figure out, and it's going to sound silly. I wish I could figure out how I could get 10 online orders a day. That would make me so happy to get 10 online orders a day. I'll ship it anywhere in the country for free. But how do I just get every day 10 orders? And we get, you know, sometimes we get close, but not every day.
Yeah.
And
Consistency is like the biggest challenge for any business.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, for
Myself
sure.
included. It's like I'm on this kick right now of like I just want to make $250 a day.
Totally.
And then the next week
It's
I want
a
to
unit.
make $333.
Yep. How do I add this much a day?
Yep.
Yeah.
And like, you know, you don't realize the costs that go into it, right? Like, you know, the space, and then electric. Whoa, but my heat tunnel and that thing uses a lot of electric, and now it's more. And you know, it's just amazing what it really takes to start something.
Yeah.
You know, like the incubator was a wonderful starting point. You could rent it. You didn't have to do anything. You cleaned up. It was great. But now having my own space, it's like, oh, do we have sanitizer? Do we have this? And we have some systems to help us with that. But it's just a lot of check. I spend a lot of money.
Yeah. Yeah.
Easy. It just goes. Easy come, easy go, my dad says.
Yeah. It's all the time. It's like, wait, where did all the money go that we just made? You're like,
Yeah.
It's all invested
It's all sitting
back
in inventory.
Yeah, well, that's a big thing too. We try to stay lean on the inventory,
Yeah, you
just because we can produce so much at a clip now. We try to just keep, and we also want the freshest stuff going out too, right? We don't want things sitting in our warehouse for more than like a month at the most, right? But we do have a year-long shelf life. But you know, it doesn't need to sit there, and if it's sitting there, it ain't making money. You know, so we try to, but now it's our busy season, so we're kind of stocked up, and now it's like, let's get these big
spring,
guys
summer's
going.
the best. Yeah.
Oh, I love them. And we go pretty well into fall.
Right.
We've had some great this last January and February. We were up like 80% for those from last year, which was like, oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Is it because you're now distributing out of state? Like, are you getting into like some warmer climates?
Yeah, well, I think it's we're working with better partners, right? So moving more product, like, you know, you got to sell to distributors cheaper, but you're also moving, you know, a ton more product through it. So it makes it work. You know, the routes we're selling more every day, and that's just sweet.
Yeah.
You know, I like it.
Pun
to end
intended.
on.
Yeah.
Well,
Cheers.
thanks for coming in.
Oh, always. Thank you for
That was
having me,
awesome.
guys.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.